Hello.
Hello, good morning. It's great to talk with you guys about this 2018 vintage. But I mean, are you harvesting now?
We are just starting harvesting.
Right. Tell me a little bit about that. The 2023 vintage. How does the harvest look like now?
It looks good. We've had a wet winter and spring. So one of our wettest winters and springs wettest since 1992, which has been really fantastic for the vineyards, for the whole environment, really. Summer has been very mild, surprisingly mild, with just a couple of little peaks of heat. It almost feels like we haven't had a summer. It's that sort of summer. And we're going into autumn now, and it's dry. It's quite mild temperatures. They're getting quite nice cold nights. And so the fruit quality looks fantastic. Some of the crop was reduced by wet weather during flowering, and we had some downy mildew effect on the bunches during flowering. So there's been some reduction in yield because of that. But generally speaking, the yields are about average, and some, during the picking now, we're finding that some parts of the vineyard are slightly above average than we expected. The quality is very high. So we're getting beautiful flavours, beautiful acidity, incredible acidities in the fruit at the moment. With the potential, we're picking Riesling currently. We're starting at the northern end of the Eden Valley, Macolta through Angerson towards Eden Valley Village, and the flavours are looking great. The yields are reasonable, and the balance in the fruit.
Excellent.
We're very happy. I think it's going to be another high quality vintage like 22 and 21 were. And going back.
Yeah, you have quite a few exceptional vintages in a row, right?
We have, yes, indeed.
Because the last two vintages we've also experienced mild summer temperatures, and we haven't experienced long heat waves. So that's generally something common in the Australian summer and autumn. But I think it's really been a huge fortune to not have to sit grapes through those heat wave conditions, because it's just the balance of the fruit is not the perfect, or not as you'd want.
Is this the case for Eden Valley, or is it a case for Barossa in general? Like, because apparently Eden Valley is a little higher and a little cooler. So is it more favorable? It's more favorable for Eden Valley, or in general, Barossa Valley is like that.
General,
yeah.
Really.
The last 3 years,
It's helped both regions. The difference with Eden Valley is that we have higher altitude, we have a greater day-night temperature differential, so we get higher acidities, greater purity of fruit, and wines that have a fantastic length on them. And I think that's the difference. So the Barossa Valley tends to be warmer day-night temperatures. So you get fuller flavors, but less of that purity of fruit. So.
Okay. Hi, Prue. How are you?
Hello.
So, I was just going to ask you about the 2018 vintage, the harvest, which is like a very important year for Henschke. And also tell me a little bit about the harvest of 2018.
Well, we had everything thrown at us. We had a dryish winter, and then just at the end, the tail end, it actually filled up the soil profile. So that always, when we fill up our winter soil profile, that means a good year. Then we went through a cool October, and there were some periods of downy mildew pressure, I suppose you could call it, although the vine's pretty young still. And then we had a really magnificent flowering period through November, December. So that set us up for a good set. And then January was warmish, and then suddenly dropped. The temperature dropped dramatically through February. March was dry, a bit of warmth just to get the Shiraz through, and then it cooled down significantly at the end. So we had everything.
But overall, it was a really lovely season.
I think the late winter rains, the good set, and the cool February certainly put that vintage in position for a good one.
Yeah, that's right. It set it up well for a high quality harvest in general. And when we look at the season as a whole, it was approximately 1 degree Celsius warmer
that's right.
than the average, the long-term average. So
it's through January.
Yeah, so it's the wines. I think you'll see they appear rich. They have lovely plush fruit, which is this slightly warmer than average, sort of classic Australian style harvest.
Yeah, that's right. So you have that plush. You have that plushness. You have that lushness from Barossa in general. But I expect Eden, you will have a little more freshness, a little more acidity, a little more brightness to the palate.
So what we have, the idea of this release of the wines in May is for us to feature our single vineyard wines, and that's something we've been doing consistently the last 3 or 4 years. Is releasing them as a set, which is logical, but we haven't always been able to do it in the past, where all the sales line up at the same time. So this is something we've made a conscious effort to release the wines side by side, showing hopefully the interesting discoveries of the terroirs in the Eden Valley, and then because it fits in the style of these old vine single vineyard wines, the Cainton Euphonium, which James had tasted when he was here last year. The 2018 Cainton Euphonium is an old vine Shiraz blend, so it fits in through the old vine theme, although it's not a single vineyard in this case.
Because we know that Southern Australia is not known for like many single vineyard. It's more known of cross-region blend and everything. Right. So you guys are of course making some of the most premium wines with the single vineyards. Do you think there is a sort of a competition of the two, like between the single vineyard wines and a really good cross-region blend that don't talk a lot about specific terroir?
Yeah, possibly. I think there's probably greater interest now in single vineyard wines, and the fact that Australia, and particularly the Barossa Eden Valley, has some of the oldest vines in the world. They're pre-phylloxera material. They're on their own roots. They haven't been grafted, and they're vines that were planted by 5, 6 generations before us. So that means it's an amazing history of these vineyards, and I think the uniqueness of these single vineyards is their history, the variety that expresses the flavors and the distinctiveness of site, that's sort of centre place, as well as I guess huge potential aging of the wines in bottle, because we already have a history of some of these wines going back to the 50s, the 1950s early. And first Mount Edelstone, for example, was released by my father in 1952. So we have, something like 70 years of history of these wines being made and bottled, and it gives you an amazing snapshot of what the vineyards can do, and what the unique flavors are. So for us, it's a way of showing off, I guess, our history and heritage. And I think for the consumer out there, they're actually quite interested in that uniqueness, rather than just cross-blending and getting nice flavors.
That also gives us a kind of a sort of a notion of people are very acquainted with Hill of Grace, because when people talk about Henschke, people talk about Hill of Grace. That's because of the terroir, your single vineyard there. But that really stands out. While the other, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the consumers are really acquainted with Mount Edelstone or anything else. Like, does that create something special for only one place like Hill of Grace, and while the others are still living under the shadow of this iconic vineyard?
Yeah, I guess people like discovery, and when they discover how amazing Mount Edelstone is, and we arrive, and the Cyril Henschke and what have you, then they, I think they really have a great joy from learning about something they didn't know about. But in Australia, most people know Mount Edelstone. Mount Edelstone is very widely collected and jumped by people, and it's quite approachable in terms of price and it's beautiful quality.
But speaking of a single vineyard, Hill of Grace is also a blend of different smaller parcels, and because you have the very old, I remember the grandfather parcel or block, which is like the oldest, right? And then you have some other relatively younger vines that are not as 150 plus years old, right?
The summary of this is there's great competition between these blended wines from Australia, and there's some of the wines that make it to everyone's cellars around the world. And as Stephen was saying, after that, it's about a personal journey of discovering for each of those interested tasters from around the world, and hopefully they find the uniqueness and find something which is just so expressive and obviously changes from each season. And I think that's the glorious thing about these single vineyard expressions, is that we are now recognizing how important they are in the world of wine, because they inspire us and they take us far, further probably in our experience, our wine tasting experiences than just that, that idea of trying to emulate the same wine each year, more or less, given the vintage. So yes, it's I think in this era, a lot of people are recognizing that how important these single vineyards are. Although it was my grandfather, Cyril, he was making these wines well before even people were appreciating the concept of single vineyard, of terroir. He didn't. I'm sure that Cyril didn't even know the word terroir at that time. So this curiosity that he had to taste the wine from Mount Edelstone, and then 6 years later make his second single vineyard wine of Hill of Grace is just, for me, is quite extraordinary. So it's that's the lovely thing about wine, isn't it? It just keeps taking us places.
Exactly. How do you compare the 18 with 17, for example? 17 was a little cooler, right? It was a little, almost like a little more elegant.
I was mentioning there was 1 degree Celsius, warmer than the long-term average for the 2018 or 2017 into 2018 year vintage. But for the 2016 into 2017 season, it was 2 degrees cooler than the long-term average. I mean, the averages don't mean too much when it comes to, if we're speaking about the point from the raisin to harvest. Is probably a little bit closer together. However, the 2017 was picked later on the calendar. It was a much cooler season in general. More rainfall during the preceding weeks and months up to harvest. And the wine responds in a different way. It expresses a little bit more ripe herbal character. If you can understand me in terms of almost moving towards Mount Edelstone in a way, in terms of its aromatics for that 2000.
Get it. I get that. Yeah. That's a cooler vintage that give you a little more elegance, a little more linearity, more blue fruit or purple fruit, a little bluer. Or maybe red and blue fruit. And this gets more blue and maybe darker berries.
Exactly.
Little blackberries, a bit of that. In a way, more classic Barossa.
Eden,
whatever. Eden should be. Maybe the Edelstone is more Eden Valley like. I don't know. I mean, Hill Grace is more like unique and
almost like
different.
let's move up and down the mountain range depending on the season.
That's great. Listen, I know this is like a your 60th anniversary, right? It's the 60th vintage, so that's a really good vintage. Also marks the 150th anniversary of Henschke, right? So this is really a really good effort, and also that's a really classic vintage for you guys. I think that's really not as maybe as I mean, it really depends on how you feel, how you like the styles. But in a word, how do you summarize the style, if there is one, for Hill Grace? What are you looking for?
I mean, I think we're probably looking for what we see in the 18 in a way. I mean, you're looking for complexity, but uniqueness of that vineyard, that fire spice, that beautiful exotic characters it has, but depth and fine grained tannins. So it's hard because we've made now 60 or we're releasing 60 vintages or the 60th vintage, and they're all different. They're all a snapshot of their season. So you're seeing that sort of moving line going along, and every Hill Grace obviously is a unique result of that particular vintage. So it comes, I think, back to personal preference, whether you like that.
And we do like the 86. The style of the 86.
86. We've had some really classic vintages over time. From 58, 62, 72, 86 was a standout. The 90s, there was some great vintages in the 90s, from 2000s and the 2000s.
2002.
There's some great examples of beautiful Hill Graces, and I think, it's we've labelled this vintage as a vintage of wonder because it was a wonderful vintage, and all the stars aligned to produce that wine for our 150th celebration, if you like. So 150 years. So we're very happy.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you. I think the short answer was for the word. You were asking which word to describe Hill Grace.
Yeah, just in a few words.
Unique. I think Stephen and Bruce said it a couple of times there. Unique is really what it is. If people haven't tasted it before and are interested to taste it, they'll see a very unique expression. Really, I mean, there are lots of other Barossa wines or Australian wines which appear similar, but it's its own object, it's its own taste, it's its own aromatics, and it's its own history. Like this is very impossibly replicable. This site of this Lutheran church in front of a vineyard which has such incredible quality. So it's just that's our family's history right through the prism of this wine, through that vineyard and to the church, which was the reason why our family came to Australia in the very beginning. So
it's more than just the wine. It's actually the story of the
stories behind it,
of the village, of the region, of the people. Yeah.
The people, family as well. That's very important. The Henschke. Anyway, congratulations again. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
That's really nice. Bye.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.